there.
Lord, you are the most high. Hallowed be thy name. Lord, you are the most high. Hallowed be thy name. Lord, you are the most high. Hallowed be thy name.
You tell me, say, make I know that everything's gonna be okay. You are the father to the fatherless, the miracle working God. You made the blind man to see.
Are we going live now?
You made the crippled man to walk. You are the lily of Galilee.
Hey Ben, how you doing?
Impossible, possible.
Lord, you are the most high. Hallowed be thy name. Lord, you are the most high. Hallowed be thy name. Lord, you are the most high. Hallowed be thy name. I woke up strong on a Monday. I go to gym on a Tuesday. Then to the studio on Wednesday. I work it out till Thursday morning. I be chilling on a Friday. I play some shows on a Saturday. If you ask me what my best day is, it's when I praise you on Sunday morning. I got my throat in my mouth. Hello, be the name. Lord, you are the most high. Hallowed be thy name. Lord, you are the most high. Hallowed be thy name. Lord, you are the most high. Hallowed be thy name. Lord, you are the most high. Hallowed be thy name.
Everything's gonna be okay. You are the father to the fatherless, the miracle working God. You made the blind man to see. You made the crippled man to walk. You are the lily of Galilee. You make impossible possible.
Kama truki mama, unazino na mugane toyo, makana chani dima. Hello, be the name. Lord, you are the most high. Hello, be the name. Lord, you are the most high. Hello, be the name. Lord, you are the most high. Hello, be the name. Lord, you are the most high. Hello, be the name. Woke up strong on a Monday. I go to gym on a Tuesday. Then to the studio on Wednesday. I work it out till Thursday morning. I be chilling on a Friday. I play some shows on Saturday. If you ask me what my best day is, it's when I praise you on Sunday morning. I got my throat in my mind. Unazino na mugane toyo, makana chani dima. Hello, be the name. Lord, you are the most high. Hello, be the name. Lord, you are the most high. Hallowed be thy name. Lord, you are the most high. Hallowed be thy name. Lord, you are the most high. Hallowed be thy name.
We want to say good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're viewing us from tonight. Again, we are back on our platform, Family Connection International, on the forum Keeping in Touch. It's a forum where we share life changing experience and stay connected. Today is Sunday, the 7th of June, 2020. And as always, we have Levi and we have Ben on this platform. We also have a guest here tonight we'll be introducing later, but let me go over to Ben. Ben, how are you doing today on a Sunday?
I'm doing pretty good, and I'm glad to be here again. Right now, I'm speaking from California, and I'm looking forward to being able to interact with our speaker today on this forum. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to also be part of this team.
Great. And as always, I also have Levi. Levi, I think New York is coming back starting tomorrow. How you feel?
Uh,
You are in New York
definitely
City.
so, definitely so. That sense of joy of our restoration to get back to where we were to be restored. I mean, it's gradually coming. You can feel it in the air, you can feel it in the weather, and you can feel it all over you. I'm so glad again to be on this platform, the platform where we share life-changing experiences and get a lot of education. So again, I'm honored to be on this platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And as I said, tonight we have a guest. Today we are hosting Tamba D, Aghailas, an author, advocate, and philanthropist to discuss his life journey, family and humanitarian life changing experiences. Our guest will also be speaking on the journey of trial and triumph over adversity. He recently founded a Tamba Aghailas Foundation, whose mission is to inspire and empower a new generation of leaders through education, capacity building, and innovation. And Tama is right here, see that pretty well. Tama, maybe you could rotate your camera a little bit because you kind of Yeah, yeah, it will help us because you are kind of slanting. If you can rotate your camera and maybe just tell our viewers a bit about yourself, just introduce yourself to the audience. Yep, I think that's great.
Beautiful. Now
Yeah,
you are on track.
yeah. Just unmute yourself and introduce yourself to our panel tonight. That's great. Looking good.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
All right. Thank you for having me, Mr. Solomon Fasa and Benjamin Ketor. Staying connected. And Minister Levi, it's a pleasure to see you on as well. I'm Tamba Aghailas. I'm calling from the city of New York, where I'm currently residing. So it is a pleasure to be on here. As Mr. Fasa has said, I'm the author of a recent book, In Pursuit of Liberty, A Refugee's Chronicles of Triumph, and I encourage all Liberians, to buy a copy and read it. So it's a pleasure to be on the staying connected with you guys today.
Thank you so much. And to our viewers, wherever you're viewing us from, if you have a comment, we appreciate your comment. If you have a question, just drop us a question on the Facebook Live. You are viewing through. We'll be able to read your question. We'll be able to look at your comment as we get along with this discussion here tonight. Um, Pero, Tama, let's start this ball rolling. We got 1 hour tonight just to let our viewers know. Wherever you are, it's a 1 hour program. We take up your comment. We do not discuss politics, but we discuss issues that are hardcore to family because we believe that family is a smaller unit of a society, but without a family, you do not have a society. We need a better family. We discuss this issue that come up on our dinner table. So, how is your family doing this coronavirus time, Mr. Aghailas? Because this whole issue of coronavirus, I know is getting away, but how have you been managing through this coronavirus?
I can tell you that, first of all, we thank God. The family is doing great. It has been a bit of a shock for the children, who were abruptly pulled out of school, especially when schools closed, when they were other closed, and we were all trying to adapt to the new way of learning and educating and training the kids. But at this time, I am grateful to the Almighty God for keeping all of us safe. My kids are doing well. My partner's doing well. The kids will be, I have two actually girls graduating high school this year, a 17-year-old and a 19-year-old. So we have already received some of the graduation notices. We got a banner from one of the schools to indicate that graduation is on course for this year. For the two young ones one is in middle school, a boy who was 18, and one is in primary school who was 9. They are looking forward to completing the school year online. So, and this is where it's been very important to try to get the children connected with technology. And thanks to the New York City Education Department, all of my kids were able to receive laptops. The high school girls received laptops. The middle schooler and the primary school goer, they receive tablets. So they have been since able to stay on top of their lessons. It's just waking them up in the morning has been my task to make sure that they wake up. They tend to sleep a little later, but we're doing well and we thank God.
I know that's pretty well. I also have somebody in high school, my daughter, to get them up in the morning is a big challenge. I know you are a family president. You got a very big family. How you been keeping in touch with other family members during this coronavirus?
Yeah, so one of my family members, closest family members to me, and I'm trying to set my camera. I'm sorry, it's shaking. I did it like this the other day at work, but today I have to like reset it a little bit.
Okay, it's good.
So yeah, thank you. My mom is my mother. Mother Tuasia Peter is currently in Liberia. As you guys who are close to me, you heard back in late February when I just returned from Liberia, I lost my sister. So I had to rush to send my mom to go and oversee the funeral rites. That's her first daughter. So she, we laid her to rest on March 16. So mother has been stuck in Monrovia since then. And I gave that example because she's one sure way I can measure how well I have been the one to stay in contact with family members. So I have been calling her, on a weekly basis. I set her on a budget to make sure that first I send her units and that we can connect at least once a week, either through WhatsApp or just calling her directly. So that's the best way sometimes to stay in touch with elderly people. You just having your time to make sure that on this day, at this time, to make sure they call your elderly parents or elderly relatives. With other friends and family members who are in other states or overseas or in other countries, it's usually WhatsApp or Messenger or Facebook, which has made connections so easy. Nowadays, sometimes I get calls 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and someone is calling me. I say, man, I'm still asleep. And I call you back when I wake up. So with Facebook, with WhatsApp, with a push of the button, you can reach anyone anytime. And those technologies have been very helpful in staying in touch with family members.
Thank you so much. As we said tonight, we'll be looking at the author. This is a book he was talking about. It's a refugee chronicle of triumph in pursuit of liberty, an amazing journey of a Liberian refugee. So, Brother Tamba Aghailas, tell us about your life journey.
Okay.
I think it's a big open question. I know we were going to the details, bringing Bang and other people, at least to have a discussion. But tell us a synopsis about your life journey. I know it's a big book.
Right.
I've gone through it. I will pull up some things we'll talk about. But from your perspective, tell us, what was your life journey like? Or what is it like to this point?
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much. As the book itself says, it's a journey of triumph, through 30 years, during a 30 years period from 1989 through 2019, I would say, because that's when I released the book in December. So during the 30 years, 1989 to 2019, that 30 years saw Liberia go from a quasi stable West African nation with a rising, buzzing middle class, where children like us at the time, we play football in the streets of West Point or on the beach, Happy Corner, Macklin Street, Randall Street. We stay out late, we ate at Burger King's or the McDonald's on Broad Street. We went to Riverly, or Gabriel Cinemas, or Roxy. So, and those were normal days, and things were looking really good for families and for children, until all of that quiet and buzzing middle class lives were disrupted when a group of Liberians launched an all-out civil war to remove the incumbent president at the time, Samuel Kayando, from power. And this incursion was led by no other than the poster boy of war crimes, Charles Gange Taylor, who also later became president of Liberia. During that period, we were uprooted from West Point, where we were raised and grew up, where we still have homes today. And we traveled across Liberia, going through the muddy roads of the forest, the Lofa forest, the Kumba forest, spending days in the mud, going through villages. And we experienced the horrors, the early years of the Civil War. And when we finally got to Foya, where we hail from, where my parents hail from, we met a town that was abandoned. All government officials have left, going into hiding, police, military, there was nobody. So we were here, and that was the only safe haven my parents knew at the time, and we had to sit there and wait for MPFL to come and take over the town. So for 5 years, I lived in Greater Liberia, but between that time, MPFL redoubled their efforts in 1990, 1992, between that time, to try to recruit more young men and women, especially as they fought on the front lines of Monrovia to try to capture Monrovia. The 1990 fighting was not easy. So it sent us into exile in late 1990 in Sierra Leone because I was harassed, arrested, humiliated, tortured, just because I didn't have an AK-47. I was a young guy. I was a young boy. So my mother, prevailed on us to say, hey, I can't stay here or sit here and watch you boys get conscripted into rebel armies only for them to maybe bring your body back to me, or we may never find your body if you are killed somewhere in the forest. So we were forced into exile, first in Sierra Leone, and we lived in a border town. And then from there, 1991 March, Fode Sankoh, who most of you have read about, received sponsorship from our then leading rebel leader, Charles Taylor, to start an incursion into Sierra Leone. And we were in a border town. The town is called Sanga. It's a small village across from the Fuyatenga area, about 10 miles from Lengmamba. And we were there, and then when the war started, so we were basically forced back into Liberia under the cover of gunfire. So we stayed in Liberia, we resettled in Fuya, we stayed there, we began some activities to just try to get back to normalcy, but it was never normal again. And we try and error, we did some trade in produce. I used to go to the Bandi forest, all of those Bandi countries and districts, and Masamula home, Bola home, Kola home, all those home. I know all those places. But at the time, I had to help my mom because my mom had, at the time, all of us living. She had 8 of us with her unborn children who she had to feed. And we established back in Foya and tried to pick up the broken pieces of our lives. But the war never stopped. Child stealers, rebels, the MPFL continued to press on to control Liberia, while his opponents at the time went ahead and created multiple warring factions to counter Charles Taylor from taking over Liberia. So at the time we had over 15 to 20 warring factions fighting across the territories of Liberia. You heard of the Ulimo J, the Ulimo K, the Fode Sankoh remnants from Foya. They used to come back and forth. They were roaming all of the northern part of Liberia. You heard of the Lofa Defense Force, you heard of Yaya Nimeles Force. So all of these new groups were founded just to counter Charles Taylor.
Tamba, what I want to do is, I know it's a very long story. We want to dive into details. Right. I think let me give the opportunity to my colleagues, maybe from what you have just explained. I know this story will lead out to Sierra Leone, it lead out to Guinea, it lead out to the US, where we're able to achieve something. But I think we are hard a little. Let me just bring in Levi from your end. Maybe you have something to throw in. Levi?
Well, it's quite interesting listening to the story. What it does is that it brings to me a sober reflection. And I think it's a great day. It's a great thing to remember. But I just want to know from Brother Tamba there, a lot of people experience what you are talking about. Most of us that were in Africa at the time, particularly Liberia, went through this struggle, and we can sit and reflect on those memories. But I just want to know what drove you. There should be something that drove you to writing a book about your life journey. I just want to know what drove you. What was that motivation?
Right. Very, very pertinent question, Brother Levi. And what drove me is that, after having spent 10 years as a refugee in Guinea, and I finally got out when Guinea got very risky, and I ended up in the States here in New York as an international student. I wanted to use my own voice to be able to lend a voice to those who didn't have a way or an opportunity or any other venue to share their own life stories, to share what we experienced in Liberia during the Civil War that took away the lives of over 250,000 people during this 15-year period. I wanted to lend my voice to the thousands of tens of thousands who didn't have a way to express their experience, to share their own pains and their own respective journeys. So my story and my voice represent the story of millions of Liberians, who are today our generation, who were young men and women. We have the Zokos population. Who's going to tell their story? These are the guys who are in their 15, 16, 17 years old. And they are today men in their late 30s and early 40s. Who's going to tell their stories? You have young women who were raped, who today have grown-up children from those instances. Who's going to tell their stories? So my story, I hope, will inspire many others and will serve, as a silver lining and a glimmer of hope for thousands, if not tens of thousands of people who experienced the Liberian Civil War, who were tortured one way or another, who lost loved ones, children, families. And I hope that my story will help lend a voice to those people and inspire a new generation. And we as
Thank you very
Liberians,
much.
finally, we have to be able to tell our own stories and capture our own history. And it's about time that we start doing that.
Thank you. Well, folks, as you heard from our guests, we as Liberians need to write our own stories. We are African. We need to write our own stories. We're going to tell the story. So tonight we're going to be juggling into Brother Tamak's story, taking us back from Liberia all the way like he was going Sevalon, bringing us all the way to the US. So just stay tuned, make your comment, ask your questions, just follow up, and we're going to give you the best of his book. Back to you, Mr. Faxa.
This is Family Connection International, a platform keeping in touch. We reach out to people who come on our platform. We discuss their life stories, put spotlight in what they have achieved. People see you today is not who you were in the beginning. People never grew up with a gold spoon. They have went through trials and tribulation. They went through some processes to be refined to be who they are today. But people do not know that. So this program is intended to discuss some of those things and to also discuss those hardcore issues that we talk about during our dinner table. Ben?
Thank you so much, Mr. Fasa. And again, welcome to you, Brother Tamba. It's great seeing you on this platform to discuss your life-changing experiences. I remember having interactions with you back in the days, especially when we all were refugees. And I remember when you used to do some publishing work, and some of us used to go over and say, oh, big brother, please help us to do this program or do this invitation and things like that. And that was the time that you were working with Plain Guinea, if I still remember rightly. Right. Yeah. So a lot of things you used to do serve like a motivation for some of us. I remember saying to myself, I said, one day I want to do some printing job like this, and face programs for people. Eventually I end up doing it, and I still doing it anyway. It's part of many things that I do. So that was a form of motivation from your end. You being a refugee in Guinea, I know you had a lot of trials and triumphs in your joining. How did the refugee life as a whole prepare you to be the type of man you are today?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Refugee life is not easy. I mean, you've been, and I'm glad you brought up this story. And that was when I was just starting out my career. That was like 1996, 1997, and upwards. But those skills that I developed over time continue to serve me well today. And this is where, computers have revolutionized the world for the last 20 years, and they continue to do so. But being a refugee, Ben, I should rightly say, being a refugee teaches you a lot of things. As a refugee, when we arrived, I remember 1994, 1995, I believe, May 1995, we arrived in Gigedu as refugees from Foya. The guys tried to overrun Foya, and General Fayyad took to the butches, and then Foya became a no man's land. And then they started fighting among one another. We arrived in Gigedu with nothing, and we met hundreds of tens of thousands of other refugees already. They had some high jobs, some were in schools, people were hustling. There were dozens of refugee camps scattered across the forest region. But being a refugee teaches us that no matter how much you've fallen, and no matter how much you've lost everything, never to give up. As long as you have life in you, and you continue to breathe, and you continue to believe in God, you never give up. So the life of a refugee is one of destitute. Initially, you have nothing. The United Nations High Commission for Refugees will come and register new arrivals. They will give them, and I talk about some of this in my book. You give them a ration, a bag of rice, some beans, and vegetable oil, and whatever they can afford to give you. But it's barely for a few days. If you are a family of 8 children, my mom had 8 of us, plus several other relatives that had left Foya to join us, we're over a dozen people in the same household. We had to survive on the little that we had. But also being a refugee teaches you that never be too proud to say, this used to be my lifestyle. I used to be a prince. I used to be, the attention, the person who had all the attention in my household. I used to live a middle-class life, and my family had everything. So now you get to a point where you get frustrated to say you don't want to start over. But being a refugee teaches you that no matter what your status was before or during normal days, it teaches you that always be open-minded and always be open to new ideas and new knowledge. Because when you are open to new ideas and new knowledge, you're going to always meet people along your journey who's going to point you in the right direction, who's going to bring up some information, who's going to refer you to a job. But you have to be willing as refugees to take that opportunity to say, you know what, this is something I want to learn. This is a new skill I want to pick up. This is a job I am not too proud to do, even though it pays me minimum wage, or even though I may start as a volunteer with a hope that it could turn into something. Being a refugee teaches you humility. It breaks, because when you lose everything and you have to start all over, and you learn to accept your condition with a hope that things are going to be better someday, and you don't know when, but you just believe, and you just have that hope. It teaches you to be the lowest of all, to be humble with humility, and when things improve for you, people will look up to you as an inspiration.
Right. Great. Thank you for that insight. And indeed, as it is often said, that no condition is permanent. Today you may be up, tomorrow you may be down. No condition is permanent. And I can see how you were able to go through the system in terms of being a refugee and coming from that level. And today you are still strong and even stronger than before through all the challenges that you have to pass through during that time of trials. Now, what would be your advice to people that are listening to us when it comes to, sometimes because we live in a society, we live in a world that sometimes some people don't understand what it means, especially those that have not traveled outside of certain areas. They don't know what it means. What would be your advice to them in terms of people that turn their backs on refugee? Because personally, also I've lived as a refugee boy, and nobody wants to be a refugee, but because of certain reason you find yourself in that condition. What would be your advice to people that turn their backs on refugees?
Very good question. What I say to people who may have turned their backs or may have mistreated refugees is that, first of all, no one chose to be a refugee. No one would intentionally leave the comfort of their home, a stable country with opportunities to excel, opportunities for mobility for young people, for families, and you would intentionally leave all of that to say, let me go into refuge. No one would do that. So my advice to people who may come across or may have come across refugees, or even people of immigrant descent in first world countries like Europe and America, I say to them, never judge a book by its cover. Because basically, if you were to judge someone because of their refugee status, it was not a choice, as most people may think, that people will leave their countries to go abroad to go see greener pastures. Most of us refugees from the 90s, from the civil wars of the 1990s, and if you go back into history, and I talk about that a little bit in one of my chapters where I said, Liberia didn't get the attention at the time that we needed because Europe and the rest of the First War in America have focused their attention during the 90s on the civil wars and crisis of Europe. As you know, there was a war between the Croats and the Serbs at the time in Bosnia Herzegovina. That was a major headliner. There was the Hutus and the Tutsis in Rwanda that gained the UN attention immediately, and they had to step in to stop the bloodshed. But Liberia's civil war went on for almost 14 unbroken years before the international community realized that they had to step in to end the bloodshed. So those who come across refugees, I would say, show compassion and show humility, because most of these families and individuals who have been uprooted by war or by crisis in their respective countries of origin did so because they had to seek refuge somewhere to survive, and to be able to survive and tell their story someday, like I have been able to do.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that insight from you as well. And again, for sure, never judge a man by the appearance of his color. Always judge him by his character. Brother Fasa, I turn it over to you there. You might have something.
Thank you so much, Ben. Just to let our viewers know, this is Keeping in Touch, a program where we share life-changing experiences and stay connected. If you're out there, you'd like to be a part of this program, we got a WhatsApp number, which is 281-467-7465. You can call that number. We'll pick up your call or your comment, or you can easily just type your question through the Facebook you are viewing us directly from. But Otama, chapter 10 of your book, you wrote that Plan International Country Director at the time, Freight, encouraged you to apply for a U.S. visa. Are you still in contact with Freight?
Oh yes, he's a lifetime friend. We call him Fallo Foster. So we gave him the Fallo Foster name because he's one of those souls who dedicated his life to helping communities in West Africa and other developing countries. So we are still friends. He's now retired. He lives in Florida, but we do keep in touch. I think I saw him like 2 years ago when I went down to Florida to visit. So he's a very good friend of mine and a mentor, I would say. I would say without his mentorship, I would not be where I am today. But this is a man who saw talent in me. This is a man who looked at me and believed that I could do greater things. And he gave me an opportunity to prove myself, and I didn't let him down.
That's great.
Yeah.
If you also look at chapter 12 of your book, you wrote about a refugee you met in a subway that gave you a business card which led to your breakthrough in this country because you came to the U.S. as an international student. Tell us how it happens.
Yeah, so you live in New York City, but for our viewers, New York City is the international capital of the world. You meet, in fact, when you are in New York, or in Manhattan, I would say every block or two that you walk, you will hear people speak a dozen different languages. So it happened that I was on the subway and I was headed to class that Saturday morning. And this guy was sitting in the subway across from me. And I had a book that I was looking through, a textbook. But he could see that this guy, you know, I think he was curious because it's Saturday, there's less people in the subway, and he wanted to, you know, to chat, you know. And then he struck up a conversation by commenting on my book. I was reading a textbook, and that's how he and I spoke. I didn't know him from anywhere, but this is what I said earlier. Always be open, receptive when even a stranger that you don't know is trying to ask you for a direction or is trying to strike up a conversation, because you don't know what may come out of that conversation. And through that brief conversation, I learned about a program that was helping refugees at the New York Bellevue Hospital. And my intake person there, I still know him. We still keep in touch from time to time. Mr. John Wilkinson. The guy speaks Wolof like a Senegalese. He's a white man. But he lived in Senegal for many years, and he speaks the Wolof so well. But yeah, that's a very good memory. I remember that because that's how I got the breakthrough, and that's how I was able to go through the system here, you know, and gain asylum and get my paperwork and reset my family. So that's a very good memory, and that's what I had to capture that in that chapter.
Thank you so much. Let us look at the other aspect of Tamba Aghailas. I understand you got a foundation. That's the Tamba Aghailas Foundation. How are you inspiring the youth and empowering our new generation? Because I guess that's what your foundation is doing. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, very good. So the Tamba Aghailas Foundation, I have over 20 years of work experience in the international sector. I have managed programs ranging from, you know, a couple of $100,000 to millions of dollars with Plan International, with BRAC International, with IRC, with many other international organizations. So I want to use my own experience and my knowledge and skills and resources to try to give back through the Tamba Aghailas Foundation. And the mission of the foundation is to inspire and empower a new generation of leaders through education, through capacity building, and through innovation. We want to start through the education component by doing workshops and trainings. We want to do workshop on opportunities for youth that they can take advantage of. I mean, we've seen our society, especially in Liberia, where you have thousands and thousands of young people are jobless. And I hate to use the word hopeless, but many are hopeless because they don't have a future. There's no opportunity for mobility within the existing social economic structure. There are no opportunities to earn jobs, to earn money for yourself, and to help cater to your own family needs. So many of the young people across Liberia sit around, try to contact a friend or relative in Europe or in America for handouts, a little $50 here and $100 there. And this week I posted a reflection that I've been having. I mean, we send so much money to individuals, $100, $50, $500 individually. And all of you do that. But if you look back over the last 10 or 20 years of doing that, what have you achieved? With the exception of few, maybe one or two here, who will be able to take advantage, maybe grow some vegetables and try to get out of poverty. The vast majority remain at the same social status. You send them $200, $300. I mean, they have more problem than the money can solve. So the money is not going to be enough for them to start any social enterprise. So we want to use this organization, the foundation, to create opportunities where we can train you and we can give them the tools so that they can seize the opportunities within their own local communities and try to take advantage and put their lives on course instead of sitting around and waiting for handouts. The government is not coming with handouts anytime soon. So that's what we intend to do. And then we have other aspects where we do conflict resolutions in communities. And we are trying to innovate wherever we have a social problem. We want to look at the social problem using community organizing skills, using the conflict resolution technique, using business management principles to try to see how we can bring modern solutions to those nagging problems that we have in our communities.
Great. So you basically telling us that your foundation operating within Liberia. It's not something that's in the U.S. Am I right?
Is registered in the U.S. Is registered in New York as a nonprofit, and we have we filed for our 501c3. But it's yes, we're going to be doing work in Liberia mostly for now.
Okay. So basically, all your work is in Liberia. I follow some of your work. Recently, I saw that your foundation are making some donating rice to people during this corona pandemic.
Right.
But I'm kind of taken aback that we'll be donating rice to people in Foya District. That's Lofa County, the county that was known to be the breadbasket of Liberia. I know your intents are good, but what can we do to go back to the soil and bring us those things? I know your foundation is doing pretty well, but going as far as Foya giving people rice, are they not farming in Foya?
Yeah, a very valid question. And yes, Lofa County, especially Foya District, is the breadbasket or should be the breadbasket of Liberia. But you're right. It raises some questions whether we should be giving people handouts. And I don't believe in handouts. I believe in giving people the resources and the tools and the information and the knowledge and the know-how so they can work for themselves. I was in Foya as recent as February. And we did some great work there during the time I spent there. We had a tournament, we had a conflict resolution workshop, we have a 4-day activity, and the program was a success. It brought out the chiefs, the locals, the local leaders and the youth. Over 2,500 people attended the 4-day sporting event. We had over 300 people in the hall both days just for the workshop. So that's how successful it was. But if you remember, Fasad, in the 70s, there was an agriculture project in Lofa, in Foya District, that turned the acres into inland, they put some irrigation, they did some irrigation work, and they ran waterways from the local rivers into the acres land. And then they planted plantations of palm. And these agriculture programs help boost productivity across Lofa for the next 20, 30 years. But today, Foya District especially is not producing rice and oil as before. Most of these acres now, they have outlived their usefulness and they need to be either reconverted into other uses instead of rice. So now you take 2-3 acres, you put rice, the rice is not coming up like before. The palm trees that they planted in the 70s, they are so tall now that you can even get 10 heads or 20 heads in a day if you don't have strong young men who you have to pay to climb up there to cut the palm. And these are some of the realities of Foya today. And we have to rethink how we can repurpose some of those agricultural lands that have served us in the last 20, 30 years, but they are no longer producing and yielding the kind of yield that we expected or we had in the last 20 years or so. And that's a challenge. So Foyans and the rest of Lofans are struggling. Subsistence farming is great, but it's only good for a small family. If we really want to get back to being the breadbasket of Liberia and the rest of the sub-region, because even Guineans and Sierra Leoneans and Malians and Gambians come all the way to Foya market to buy rice and palm. We have to look at the agricultural land in Liberia, working with the local authorities and the local people to try how we can repurpose some of the lands and turn them into high-yielding agriculture programs. And that's a challenge for all of us.
Thank you so much.
So the rights given to them and to those in Monrovia is just a token to help them get through this period of the COVID-19 pandemic.
That's great. It's a great initiative from your foundation, trying to at least think about people way down in Foya. Most of the donation that I've been seeing Liberia is within Monrovia and Edinburgh. It was a great initiative. If you're out there, you want to be a part of this program, you can give us a call on WhatsApp plus 281-467-7465, and we'll be able to pick up your call. Or if you have a question, just drop us a question, and we'll see how we'll go from there. Ben?
Thank you so much again for giving me the opportunity to interact with Brother Tamba. Brother Tamba, I followed you recently on Facebook, and you made a very interesting post. And the post reads, it says, I have been pumping money into Liberia for the last decades, investing and helping. Should I stop? What prompted this question?
Before you come in, I think I had a similar question from my end.
Okay.
As a humanitarian.
Yep.
Okay.
As a humanitarian, Tama, will you acknowledge that this response, or maybe the questions you asked, was it appropriate as a humanitarian without looking at it as an advocate? Because humanitarian work is about passion, it's about what you want to do. But if you're talking about pumping money, and if you're one of the prominent liberal leader in Oklahoma, Sam Gadu, he commented on your post. He said, "Did you really say you have been pumping money? Actions speak louder than words." Do you think that post was appropriate as a humanitarian?
Well, I'm not. Look, first of all, not everything I post on Facebook or my own personal posts may be appropriate or may not be appropriate. But my post, when I post something, sometimes it's a reflection, and as a reflection, I want to see how other people will react. And this is not to question my own motives per se. And it is true. And I'm not going to say, I'm not going to give you an amount of numbers, but it is true of what I said. But the question was more or less about sparking a conversation. And as a stakeholder, and that's the position I came from, right? I'm a stakeholder of Liberia. And I'm just looking at it, that's from that standpoint. And I hope that most people will understand where I was coming from. As a stakeholder of Liberia, we have many other stakeholders in Liberia. We have the World Bank, we have other world powers who are pumping money in Liberia for decades. And you ask yourself, all of this money that the individuals, the diaspora Liberians, those in Europe, those in America, that we have been pumping in Liberia for the last 2 decades, 20 years. Where is the progress? Where is the improvement in the social economic lives of ordinary people? Where is our electricity? Where are running water for people? Where are hospitals? Why are women still not able to get the prenatal care that they deserve? And this is from that standpoint that I ask this question. And sometimes people may read things in a post, and all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, he's a humanitarian, he shouldn't question. Well, I think we as human beings, we should be able to question everything that we do. No matter how successful you've been, you have to always look back and question what you've been doing. I can continue to provide the support, and I continue to provide the support and my own meager resources. I use my own personal savings and resources to do some of the programs. And I thank all of those who have been supporting the cause. I have received tremendous encouragement and support from friends and loved ones and supporters who have seen the impact of our foundation and have said, look, I'm going to give this guy $100, or I'm going to contribute something towards the work that he's doing because I see that he's doing the right thing. And I want to encourage people to join us. But I want all of us to not take this question as though it is a question of just me, Tamba Aghailas, but take this question as a stakeholder of Liberia. And let's look at Liberia holistically as a nation and as a people. Where are we headed? Are we getting the return on our investment as a country, as a people, and as individuals?
Thank you so much for that clarity. I knew you had a reason for posting that statement, and this was a good opportunity for you to clear the air for some people that didn't understand the point from which you were speaking. As a humanitarian, and also a student of leadership. What would be the most important character that you will attribute to our upcoming generation as young leaders? What would be the most important leadership character you will, instill in the lives of those people or encourage them to pursue as they are coming up as leaders?
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Very good question. And this is one of the main reasons that we created the voice, not the Voice of Liberia. I'm sorry, that's another organization I'm going to talk about a little bit. But this is the main reason I created the Tamba Aghailas Foundation, to be able to begin to instill in young leaders what is it about leadership that they should pay attention to. Being a leader is not about learning all of the books or earning all of the degrees and say I have PhD, I have masters. You see, education as a whole is a tool, but being a leader starts at a very grassroots level. It's about so no matter how much book you know, and I'm not sure who I'm quoting now, or how much education you have, it's the way you treat one another has a lot to show who you are as an individual.
Yes.
And then the second thing, as a leader, you want to be a leader, you got to be someone who has integrity and who is honest and who is fair. Because when people stand behind you to support you or to follow you, they want to know that if they put money into your initiative or into whatever organizations that you founded and you're trying to get some work done, that there will be accountability, that there will be some fairness, that there will be equity in what you are doing. Because if you are not honest and you don't have the utmost level of integrity, you will lose people. People will not respect you. And we are in a culture where, we've learned during the war, we saw young guys with no moral standing or no background will come with guns, and they'll come in a home, they put the father out, they put the mother out, and they will take what they need. If that family have children, sometimes they will take them away. If they are not lucky, they will be dead. So that mentality of come, grab, and go today permeates the Liberian society, where young boys and young men during the war, 15 years, they felt that if they had a gun, they could come in a household or they go break a store or a bank and take whatever they wanted to take. When a rebel group came and took over a town and captured a town like Fuya or Kakata, they identified all of the beautiful houses, either private buildings or government-run buildings, and they would take over those buildings and they would live in them free of charge. And they would take the cars, and they would loot the cars, and they would drive them as though there's no tomorrow. That culture today continues to strangle us as a society. Wherein now we have graduated from war, but our mentality wherein those who in power or who have power can come and grab and go because they feel that they have the power. It's almost like during the rebel days when they had the AK-47. Today, those in power, the majority, over the last 30 years, one leader, one government after another, they have just come and they have grabbed and they left. And that's what we need to change for the young people. You can't be a leader if you have that kind of mentality to feel that you're going to cut corners, you're going to take a shortcut to being a successful man or a successful woman. You have to be able to do the work. You have to be able to roll your sleeves, get to work, learn the skills, use your ingenuity, use your hands as a man or as a woman, learn something, learn a skill, learn a trade.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that insight and having that mindset to be able to upbring the upcoming generation to serve as leaders, and not only leaders, but leaders with dignity, leaders that people can depend on. That is very important. So thank you for that. I know we probably will have to call you back on this forum again to talk about many other life-changing experiences that you have. As we all know, our time is kind of constrained or limited. And for that matter, at this time, I'm going to throw over to my colleague, Mr. Fasa. What do you have from your end as well?
We just want to say thank you. As you rightly said, time is our biggest enemy. I would like to go over to Leva. Leva, your parting comments, your question.
Okay. Again, I'm grateful to be a part of this conversation. It brings a lot to the board, and it makes me to think a lot. But let me throw this question to be my final question to our guest in studio. Brother Tama, a lot of Liberians like yourself and myself went through this crisis that sometimes we don't want to think about. But most of our people in the diaspora, some of them have traveled, some of them stay in Liberia, some of them are young, some of them are old, but they have just decided to live the rest of their lives in sorrow and lamentation and blaming their stagnation on the war. The war. You're in the States, everything is about the war. Oh, the war made we did not acquire education. The war made we are where we are. The war made we didn't build the houses that we wanted to have built. The war made we didn't go forward in school. Everything is about the war. The war. What can we say then to these people to change their ideology, their perspective of living? Because they are stagnated in that thought of the world doing everything harmful to them.
Right. Yeah, very very pertinent question. Let me just say, Benjamin and Solomon, I had a 7:30, but it's been pushed back. So if you guys want to go another 15 minutes, it's fine. I don't want you to feel rushed. Just in case you have received calls or text messages, it's been a pleasure having this conversation as well. But Brother Levi, what I say to you is we have what we call a collective trauma as a people that we haven't addressed. And this is why most people are show who you are as an individual. Yes. Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So the collective trauma that we Liberians experienced during the war as a result of the war hasn't been addressed across the country and even within our own diaspora community. I was very fortunate to have gone through a program that helped me to deal with my trauma through the Bellevue Survivors of Torture program. I was in that program for close to 6 months to a year. And I enjoy the program because the program helped me get over my own sluggishness about how I felt. It's like I had a burden on me. And everywhere I went, my hair was down because I had this pain inside of me and I didn't know how to express it. But I encourage people who may have had the experience of the Liberian Civil War. If you have not sought help and you think that you need help, I would encourage you to seek help. It could be, it could be a local community. It could be a local community within your own local community. Tag a friend or two or three, after the end of the COVID-19, begin to organize yourself. Meet once a week and just to talk about your own experiences. You see, when you express what is in your mind in a safe space, in a safe setting, without judgment, and you set the guidelines in a way that whatever is discussed within our group remain within our group, and you can seek the help of a professional, a psychologist or psychiatrist to help you lead those conversations. And this is something I will also encourage the Liberian Community Association across the U.S. to look into, to offer some support to de-traumatizing some of our brothers and sisters who still feel that they have been entrapped and they can't seem to get over their trauma and will still continue to linger with the regrets of the past. When I came to the States in late December of 2003, I didn't come here in my teenage years. I was in my late 20s. But when I entered this program helped me stay focused. I came as an international student and I stay on track. And I told myself that I'm not going to be left back for the second time because the war almost robbed me of my future. Now let's look in the Liberian context. If you look at the Zogos today, they are people our age group, the majority in their 40s, in their 30s, and then the young generation who was born during the year that are now in their 20s. This group, the majority of them, if 100% of them have never, ever one day received any form of counseling to de-traumatize them from the war. So today we have a segment of the population, and every week and every month and every year, the Zogos population is multiplying across Liberia. And some of them is not because they fought the war anymore. The new group of Zogos that are joining this category of Liberians are people who have lost hope in the society. They can't find job, they can't find meaningful relationship, they have to find a way out by they get on drugs, and then they get in that group of people where to find a quick buck to school, on a daily basis to be able to get back. And we must address that, Brother Levi. This is not something we're just going to talk about and it's going to go away. It's not. We as a people and as a country, if we truly care about the next generation, we must begin to tackle the issue of trauma and mobility for young people in our society. One day, if we don't address these issues, one day we get up and we wake up and we hear on the news that the Zogos are on the rampage and they are burning and destroying and looting everything in their path.
Wow.
It is the greatest risk that we have today as a country.
That's great. That's great. Finally, from my end, oftentimes the case that we have from this side, when we start to share our stories, sometimes they just consider this whole story like a fairy tale. They don't believe that it exists. Even my daughter that was much younger and I brought her overseas, and I mean, when I show her pictures of Liberia, oh my God, she can't stand it. Mm-hmm. How are your kids embracing your story? Because I know you put them down and you explain these things to them, what you went through and everything, the beginning of your book, what inspired you. How are they accepting it? What kind of a passion? Are they feeling like they ought to go back to Liberia or Africa? When you explain all these things to them, yeah. How did they take it?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I'm smiling because when I tell my children, I say, next year I'm going to take you to Africa. No, we don't want to go, Daddy. But as an African parent, I would encourage all of us, even for those kids who are born here, to try to take them at least once in their lifetime. But overall, they are very much supportive. Sometime last year, when I told them, I said, I'm almost done with my book, they were the first to break the news. They went to their schools and to their teachers and they told them, and their teachers like, oh, your dad is an author. And they were very excited. I think I have taken the time to explain to them that, being where we are today and where I am today took a lot just to be here. That even though normal days we were not millionaires, but we were well off, we were stable, and we were not beggars. But the world taught us that, all of that can change just like that in the twinkling of an eye. But the kids, they love the story, and each of them, my teenage girls, each of them got a book, and they are now reading the full story. And I encourage them to read it because it is their own story. It is part of their own story. Because whatever experience that I have shared in our book is a story of not only my family, but countless other Liberian families who experienced the war, who know what it's like. And even today, some are still in refugee camps in Ghana and other countries. And we also have to think of those people and see how we can get them back home someday. So the kids were very excited. In fact, my two teenage daughters, one of them manages my personal Twitter, and the other one manages Instagram. One of them manages my personal Instagram, and the other one manages the foundation Instagram. So I got them involved as part of the project. And then I bought them a printing machine where they are able to print out some t-shirts for me as well. So that got them very excited to feel that they are part of this project and they still come to a logical conclusion. And we were planning the book launch in New York when this pandemic happened. So we hope that after the end of the pandemic, we can still get the launch program back on track, so we can do a formal launch of the book and the foundation.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, it is amazing. It's so wonderful being on this platform today. I know our folks out there, they are enjoying and they are following us one step after the other. I'm reading most of the comments there. But first, back to you.
Thank you so much. We just want to say thank you so much to Brother Tamba for taking up all his time to be here tonight. And to our viewers, if you have the time, go out and buy this book. It's the story of every Liberian. At least put yourself into this book. Tamba had the opportunity to explain our stories, what we went through during the civil crisis, Charles Taylor War, the Lord War, going those who travel into Sierra Leone, then to Guinea, the refugee life, the refugee chronicle. It's a good book that you need to. Brother Tamba, I know your foundation is basically in Liberia, and could you just wrap up maybe something we didn't ask you tonight that you would like to just talk about as a parting comments?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Let me just thank you, gentlemen, for inviting me on this show. You guys have been very supportive of our work. And as well as getting copies of my book. Thank you, Solomon, Mr. Levi, and Benjamin. You guys should connect with me so I can send you guys signed copies as well. You can always make a donation to the Tamba Aghailas Foundation. We have a Facebook page. We are working on launching our website, but the Facebook page is Tamba Aghailas Foundation, and you can find it on my page or through my page. But what I'd like to share as parting comment is that I wrote a chapter, the final chapter of this book is my own vision for Liberia. And I wrote this chapter, like I asked a question yesterday, there's a lot of reflection in that. And this chapter is focused on leadership. You see, all of our problems as a nation for 174 years has been as a result of poor leadership on our part as a people and as our country. And I always like to give two little examples, but let me just give you one example. Take the example of South Africa, where Nelson Mandela fought against apartheid or the apartheid regime. And he was sent away for 28 years in prison. Upon his release, many people expected Nelson Mandela to be bitter and go after the white people. The people who have ruled his country and who have kept the black people as second-class citizens. But he didn't do that. Instead, he chose to unite his people for one common cause and one common purpose. He didn't want South Africa to erupt into a civil war. He didn't want South Africa to be known as the country where at the end of this apartheid, it went into a civil war and more killing to continue. He decided that he wanted his country to remain united. In the process, it would take years for the black man or the black family or the black population to get on par with the white people in our country, to get their land back, to get opportunity for mobility so they can move up, so they can build their own middle class. But he kept that promise. And he did that, and he only served one term as president. And he led the presidency to the rest of the generation. But he did that to set an example that as a leader, if God calls you to lead a people, to lead a country, it's not about you. To even be a representative or a senator, it's not about you. It's no longer about you. It's about those people who went ahead and said, we believe in John Smith to be our leader, and they cast their vote for you. And when you get in office, you should make damn sure that you are working to improve the lives of those people. And that's what this chapter is about, what that vision is for Liberia. Where do we go from here after 174 years? And I can tell you, and to our listeners and to the young people out there, Do not let the politician take advantage of you every time it is election season. I know we all want a handout. I know we all need assistance. You can receive someone assistance without selling your soul to the devil. So I encourage all of you to educate yourself, to gain information, be aware of your own situation, of your own surrounding, and take action. Don't stay stagnant. Don't sit and wait for handouts every time. If a brother or family member thinks of you and send you $100 or $400 or $100, take that money and say, what can I do to multiply this money? So I'm not every time waiting for Bro Fasad to send me $100 or $200. And one final thing I'm going to say, you guys can then take it over. I work with one of the largest development organizations called BRAC International in Liberia, during the Ebola crisis of 2014, 2015. The country director and I was number 2, he was number 1. I became number 1 when he left during the crisis, and I was acting country director. But we always had like a good conversation, sometimes tense. But he told me one day that you people continue to cry for everything that you can't even feed yourself. Then how can people say that you are smart? I said, why you say that? He said, well, look at your climate. Look at your environment. You can take a seed and throw it in a backyard or by the wayside without tending to it. That seed is going to germinate and it's going to grow, be it a corn, be it a rice, be it pepper, bitter balls, whatever you eat, you can grow here. So why are people crying with hunger? Why can't they feed themselves? And that thought left with me. Liberia is a fertile land. We as a people have to take our lives into our own hands and be responsible for the well-being of ourselves and our families by making sure we have the right leaders to lead us, and taking action within our own communities and in our own families and in our own neighborhoods, so that we can make a difference, that we can be a part of the change. We can keep sitting and waiting for someone else to bring the change. Be the change that you intend to see. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Brother Tamba. Be the change that you intend to see. And we want to say thank you to all our viewers, and we want to say thank you to Brother Tamba. Thank you to Liva. Thank you to Ben. We'll be coming back to you here on Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Central Time, and 10 p.m. GMT with another guest, a United States Army veteran and a youth leader will be here to discuss with us, share his experiences. We want to say to all viewers around the world watching us tonight, on behalf of Ben, Liva, I'm your host, Paulo Solomon Fasa. I want to say thank you to everybody for viewing. And have a good night from wherever you're viewing from. And bye.
Thank you.
Yep.